Okay, so today we're really diving into some pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Hamas hostage crisis.
Yeah. Definitely a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, and with President-elect Trump about to take office, it just feels like everything's ramping up.
That pressure is on, for sure.
The pressure's on to get these hostages back.
Absolutely.
But there's this whole other layer to it.
Yeah, what is it?
Both the Biden administration
Right.
and Trump's team are somehow both involved.
It's pretty unprecedented.
It really is.
I mean, when have we ever seen something like this?
Never.
Especially with how urgent this whole thing is.
Yeah.
I mean, we all heard what Vice President-elect Vance said.
Yeah, about all hell breaking loose.
All hell breaking loose
Yeah.
if they don't get their way.
Yeah, what does that even look like?
I mean, it's not totally clear.
Right.
He hinted at giving Israel a lot more freedom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot more freedom to target Hamas.
Okay.
So think like large-scale military operations
Wow.
against the remaining battalions, taking out their leadership figures.
Wow. So a much more aggressive approach.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And then beyond that, crippling sanctions, economic sanctions against Hamas,
Okay.
and anyone supporting them financially.
Right.
I mean, think back to what happened with Iran,
Oh, right. Yeah.
but maybe even more aggressive.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they're not messing around.
It sounds like they really want to send a message.
Oh, absolutely. This is American leadership.
Yeah.
Front and center.
That's being broadcast loud and clear.
For sure. And, you know, it sounds like someone's listening.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Because there are reports now
Yeah.
of some serious behind-the-scenes talks happening in Qatar.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, like there might be a hostage ceasefire deal in the works.
A deal.
Yeah.
Is this just like regular diplomats working on
No,
it?
no, no. This is not your average delegation.
Okay.
You've got the Mossad director there, David Barnea.
Okay.
He's basically the head of Israel's version of the CIA. Think like James Bond, but in real life.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Then you've got the Shin Bet director, Ronan Bar.
Okay.
He runs their internal security agency.
So like the FBI almost?
Kinda, yeah, but focused on internal threats. And on top of that, you've got Major General Nitzan Alon.
Okay.
He's retired now, but he was a leader in the IDF.
Okay.
So tons of experience there.
Wow. So you've got like
Yeah.
the A-team of Israeli security.
Exactly.
On top of all that, you've got Brett McGurk
Uh-huh.
from Biden's team.
Right?
And Steve Witkoff, who's Trump's Middle East guy.
It's wild.
Right.
It's almost like a diplomatic relay race
Yeah.
where they're passing the baton mid-run.
I like that analogy. It really is.
And the fact that both sides are so involved
Right.
really tells you something.
Absolutely.
Like they're really unified on this one.
They're putting aside
Yeah.
any differences.
Their differences.
Because they know how much is at stake here.
Yeah.
It's bigger than politics. They want those hostages home.
That's the #1 priority. And it seems like they're willing to work together to make that happen.
Yeah, that's really encouraging, actually.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with all this in mind, what's actually being proposed?
According to Israeli media,
Yeah.
it's a 3-stage agreement.
Okay.
First, there'd be a ceasefire in Gaza.
Okay.
Then Israel would pull back its troops.
Okay.
And in exchange, Hamas would release the hostages.
Okay.
And Israel would release some of their Hamas prisoners.
Okay, so on paper, that sounds pretty straightforward,
Right?
but I'm guessing there's got to be some kind of catch.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
What is it?
Well, the reports say that some of these Hamas prisoners,
Yeah.
the ones Israel would be releasing,
Yeah.
they're people who've committed, like, serious acts of terrorism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're talking bombings, attacks,
Here's the-
things that killed Israeli civilians.
So people with,
Yeah.
a lot of blood on their hands.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, that's got to be a really tough pill to swallow.
It is, and there's definitely been some pushback within Israel.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
You know, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich,
Okay.
he's been really vocal about this.
What has he said?
He's calling it a catastrophe,
Wow.
a surrender deal.
Okay.
He's adamant that he won't be part of it.
Wow.
He's not the only one feeling this way either.
Yeah, I bet.
A lot of Israelis are really skeptical about this whole thing.
Yeah, because they see it as giving in.
Exactly. It feels like capitulation to them.
And I imagine it probably undermines their trust in the Netanyahu government, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a really complicated situation.
It really is.
And, I mean, how do you balance
Yeah,
the need to get the hostages back
right.
with the idea of not negotiating with terrorists?
Right.
It's like an impossible moral dilemma.
It is, and there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got innocent lives at stake,
Right.
but then there's this whole principle of not giving in
yeah.
to their demands, you know?
And I guess there's the fear that it could embolden them?
Exactly. Give them more power in the future.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the real concern that releasing these prisoners could lead to more violence down the line. It's just such a mess.
It is.
And to make things even more complicated,
What?
the whole Middle East is changing right now.
Right.
Netanyahu and Biden just spoke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What they talk about?
They talked about the ceasefire in Lebanon,
Okay.
the collapse of Assad in Syria, and even Iran losing influence.
Wow, so much is happening.
Yeah, it's like the whole chessboard just got flipped over.
It really does feel like that.
And it's all happening
Yeah.
as they're trying to figure out this hostage situation.
Yeah, it makes everything so much harder to predict.
Yeah. With all these power shifts, who knows how any deal might actually play out?
Nobody knows.
And, with everything being so focused on
Yeah.
the politics and the strategies,
Right.
it's easy to forget about
Yeah.
the human cost of all of this.
It's easy to get lost in the big picture.
Yeah.
But this is about real people
Yeah.
whose lives are on the line.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It really is. I mean, they're estimating that around 60 hostages are still alive.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and they're caught in the middle of all of this.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for them.
And the IDF even admitted,
Really?
that they're holding back
On what?
on eliminating those last 2 Hamas brigades.
Wow.
Because they're worried about the hostages' safety.
Makes sense.
So yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
So let's just recap for a second.
Yeah, okay.
We've got this deadline coming up.
Right.
And if things go wrong,
Yeah.
there could be some major consequences.
Yeah.
We've got these super high-stakes negotiations happening.
With the best of the best on both sides.
Yeah. And a deal on the table that's causing a ton of controversy.
Yeah. No easy answers here.
So I guess the big question now is,
What is it?
can any deal actually satisfy everyone?
It's hard to imagine.
Can they bring those hostages home safely?
Without compromising their principles.
Ah.
And maybe even putting more lives at risk in the future.
It's a tightrope walk, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the whole world's watching to see what happens.
I know. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it really is.
I just hope those hostages come home safe.
Me too. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.